Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. And this is What If Deku is the Reincarnation of Naruto and Sasuke, Part 2. So, last time where we left off, everyone, Deku, met up in his mindscape with Naruto, Sasuke, and the Sage of Six Paths, gained all of their powers in Kurama. And Deku, he can't really activate it on command yet, but kind of. Like, sometimes it works when he tries to activate it on command, sometimes it doesn't. And what I'm talking about is when he tries to go into his mindscape to communicate with Kurama. And he can also communicate with Naruto and Sasuke, but only sometimes. And they have to accept, with the Naruto and Sasuke thing, they have to accept that they want to be communicated with. So, oh yeah, and I forgot, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but the Sage of Six Paths sends out scrolls and gave Deku a whole bunch of scrolls in his house to, train with and learn jutsu. Alright, so, Deku got attacked by the Sludge villain and met All Might, and that's where we left off. So, just continuing from last episode. All Might says, and as he starts collecting the bottle, he's like, oh yeah, young man, what is your name? And what's your quirk? And he says, my name's Izuku Midoriya, and my quirk is called chakra. It's basically an energy inside of my body that I can manipulate and do all sorts of things with. Oh, okay. So that's what those clones were? Yes. Oh, okay. Well, I have to go. Bye. And he says, wait, because he wants to test All Might. So he goes to grab onto All Might's leg, but doesn't quite make it, loosening up the bottles. So, because he wanted to test All Might to see if he'd say he could become hero, even though if a quirkless person could become a hero. He just wanted to test him. So, he just falls flat on his face, and he just walks around, and meanwhile, with Bakugo would be getting attacked by the Sludge villain. So, he would be trapped. Now, back to Deku. Just act like All Might's not there. But he would hear an explosion off in the distance and run off. He'd see the Sludge villain, and he'd just be standing there like, what could I do? He looks on his hero notebook, and then he sees it's Bakugo. His legs start running without him even thinking, and he can't control it. He gets to the villain, throws his backpack at it, starts clawing at it. Once he realizes that's not going to work, he uses a fireball jutsu, and the fireball doesn't have any effect. So he moves to a different approach. He makes a couple of shadow clones, and they all start clawing at the villain, trying to get Bakugo out. They're reaching for Bakugo and trying to get him out. But the villain swipes and destroys his two shadow clones. And he's pretty angry because, how his friend's in there. So he, the Nine Tails gives him a little bit of chakra to help him. Gives him some of his chakra. So, and again, this isn't One Tail Cloak. Actually, you know what? Yeah, this is One Tail Cloak. So he's in Nine Tails One Tail Cloak, and goes into the Sludge villain, trying to pull him out and stuff, which doesn't work. But yeah. I forgot to mention, ever since Deku got these powers, he started training physically, mentally, and all of that. So he's hit real kind of buff. So he is able to reach to Bakugo and tries pulling him out, and that's when All Might is watching like this kid's fighting and I can't even fight. How pathetic am I? I'm not even following my own ideals. And then he buffs up and says, Detroit Smash! And he changes the weather and raises his fist up. So Izuku is getting scolded by the heroes while Bakugo is being praised. And after this, he just starts to walk home. So yeah, Deku would be walking home, and then out of the alleyway right behind him, All Might would slide out and say, I am here. And Deku would be like, All Might? Again? And then All Might would then debuff while coughing blood. Deku would scream like, an imposter, an imposter, an imposter. And he'd be like, nope, I'm All Might. So then he'd be like, hey kid, come here. And he would lift up his shirt and show Deku his scar. Deku would be like, ooh, nasty. He was like, I got this fighting a villain. He would say, is that from fighting that one villain? He was like, no. I tried to keep it under wraps. But now, when I actually... Now, I'll just get to the point. I want you to inherit my... I've deemed you worthy to inherit my quirk, one for all. What? You can't pass down quirks. That's what this quirk is. It stockpiles quirks as it gets passed on. And there's someone you need to defeat one day if you train with it and accept the power. Will you, young Midoriya? But why won't you give it to someone without a quirk who's unlucky? He's saying this because he knows what it's like to be without a quirk. No, I cannot just give it to anybody. I need to give it to someone who I deem worthy with it. No matter if they're quirkless or have a quirk. If I deem them worthy. If I don't deem them worthy, they cannot have it. Oh, well then sure, I'll take the quirk. Alright, let me see how much muscle you have. And Deku would not have enough muscle. He would be kind of buff. He'd only have a 4-pack, but I'm like, alright, come with me. So then they'd arrive at the beach, and then All Might would say, you have to clean this whole thing until the UA entrance exam. Oh god, until the UA entrance exam. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So, Deku is training, and then, basically Deku's training, and on the days that All Might's not there, or some days when All Might's not there, he goes inside his conscience and gets he takes ninjutsu scrolls and trains with some ninjutsu. So by the end of the 10 months, the beach would look like this, and Deku would be sitting there training his ninjutsu, and just perfected the Rasengan. This is his third jutsu. The third jutsu he's almost perfected. In the 3 months, he's learned 3 more jutsu. I'll show you guys those jutsu in a second. Then All Might comes, and he's like, I didn't expect you to clean it this fast. It's only 1 more week until the entrance exam. And Deku's like, oh, okay. Well, let me see how much muscle you have now. And Deku's just as buff as he can, and he's like, oh, okay. Well then, he buffs up, and then, he's like, he plucks a hair off his head and says, "Here, eat this." Deku's like, "What?" He's like, "In order to transfer the quirk, I have to pass down some DNA." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So he eats the hair. And then, after that, hold on, I'll show you the jutsu Deku learned. So these are all of the jutsu Deku knows. He already knew Shadow Clone and Multi-Shadow Clone. He knew Fireball. And so during the training, he learned from the scrolls, Phoenix Flower Jutsu, Rasengan, and Chidori. He learned all of these in a matter of 10 months, so yeah. And the reason he got one for all, I had you guys vote on the Discord server. Link will be down below, by the way. Link will be down below, by the way, in the description. I had you guys vote, and everyone wanted him to have one for all. So basically, Izuku would obviously get one for all, and then I don't have a picture for the entrance exam, but yes, he would have his. He wouldn't be wearing. He'd be wearing his normal. Where is it? Well, I don't know. Well, he'd be wearing his normal one. I'll get a picture of him wearing it up here. Actually, never mind. But yeah. So he'd be going, and he'd be mainly targeting 1-pointers and 3-pointers, and just any robot. And then Nezu presses the big red button and decides it's time to use it. Now, Deku would hear a girl scream, so he'd run over to her, and there'd be Ochako under some rubble. Deku would use his chakra. Yeah, he also learned chakra control, so he can run up walls and stuff. He'd run up the robot and use his Rasengan right in the face, which, oh, I didn't mean to zoom in on Sasuke. He used his Rasengan, which would open the wires, which would destroy it, which would, cause some decent damage to it, and then he'd use a Chidori onto the wires to kind of circuit it. So after he circuited it, he quickly, just to make himself look a little bit more flashy, because he knows that'll help him get in, he, right after he short circuits it with his Chidori, he runs around and Rasengans it in the face, which would result in the robot falling, having a humongous dent in the face and falling over. And yes, he did use one for all to give a little bit of one for all in his legs to go faster. So Deku wouldn't be damaged, but then he'd realize he's falling, so he would, have to use one for all, so he'd he'd turn around and he'd flick himself, or not himself, but he'd flick, and the air pressure would launch him towards a building, and he'd use his chakra control to stick onto it and run down. And then he'd pick up Uraraka and bring her to the nurse's office, and, yeah. So he waits at home, and he eventually gets a letter from UA. His mom comes rushing into his room saying, Izuku, the letter from UA came in. And he goes to open it, and a hologram falls out with All Might on it. And it says, "Young Midoriya, you have passed the UA entrance exam. We will be seeing you soon." So, after that, Izuku has about a week before school starts, so he just trains and ends up perfecting his Rasengan. And also, he kinda, I forgot what I was gonna say. but he hasn't learned full counting or anything yet. But he has kind of learned to put less one for all into it and kind of control one for all better. So that's a plus. So when Deku goes on to the UA, he's like, oh wow, that's a really big door. So he opens it to see Ida telling Bakugo to get his feet off his desk, and then he looks back at, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention it, but yeah, the tripping encounter with Uraraka still does happen. But he'd look at Midoriya and say, oh hi, I'm Tenya Ida, and I'm sorry for being so rude to you like that the other week. You truly did see the true meaning of the test. I'm truly sorry. And Izuku's like, oh, I didn't see the true meaning. I just did what's right. And he's like, oh, I understand. And Izuku sits down, and then basically All Might is there too. Or no, not All Might. Suits on, and we're heading down to training site Gamma. So everyone gets on their tracksuits and goes there. So Aizawa calls up Bakugo, because yes, he still did place first, and Izuku placed second though, and he would you know launch it just like in canon, and then he'd call up Izuku next. Izuku would use one for all, but like a little bit of chakra to enhance his strength, and then Aizawa would deactivate his quirk and say and he'd still throw the ball only with his chakra strength, and as he was throwing the ball, Aizawa would say, "What were you thinking? You gonna break your arm again?" Or and then he realized Izuku threw, and he was like, because he's confused, because Izuku threw it about 100 meters. He's like, huh? I didn't deactivate his quirk? Is something wrong with mine? He's like, well, he didn't use one for all, so. Well, what were you doing? Planning on breaking your arm? He was like, well, I didn't use that part of my quirk. He's like, right. And Izuku's like, I used a different strategy. He's like, oh, okay. And then, yeah. So Mineta ends up placing. So Izuku, on the race, he uses his Chidori, because Chidoris and lightning blades make you go faster. So he used the Chidori and gets third place after Ida's first, and Bakugo, I believe, is second. So yeah, he pretty much does decent on all the other ones. So yeah, Mineta ends up getting last place, and Mineta ends up getting expelled, because I want to replace Mineta with a certain someone. You'll see it later. So then, blah blah blah, they take all the classes, and then the next week, they're all sitting in class, and All Might comes in and says, ha, I am here, walking through the door like a normal person. And, Deku, everyone's all freaking out that it's All Might. And then, there's someone else talking about Shinso. He's like, I don't think that's really how normal people walk through doors. And All Might's like, yeah. And he's like, well, today we are going to be doing a hero versus villains assignment. Everyone cheers like, yay. Then he's like, you can't be heroes without your hero costumes. And he presses a button on a remote, and stuff comes out. And, like, boxes come out. And everyone grabs their hero costumes and puts them on. And, yes, Izuku's first hero costume does look exactly the same as in canon. But his second one won't. Just letting you know. So, basically, Izuku, just, gets called first, and he ends up going with Uraraka, Bakugo, and Shinso, not Ida. So, them not knowing Shinso's quirk, would walk up, Bakugo would charge, Izuku would be able to hear him, so he'd tell Uraraka to watch out, and they'd both cling to the walls. Bakugo flying right past, but stopping just in time not to hit a wall. So, then Izuku would use a fire-style fireball jutsu, and then Bakugo would counter it with an explosion. Obviously, it's not going to do much, so Bakugo does get burnt. And then Bakugo starts charging at him with explosions. So Midoriya charges up a Rasengan, and Bakugo lands a explosion onto the shoulder, and Izuku lands a Rasengan in the stomach, which almost knocks Bakugo out, but he's extremely weak. And so is Izuku. He just got an explosion that dislocated his arm. So, after that, Izuku quickly runs up to Bakugo. He doesn't use a Chidori, but what is it? Oh yeah, he uses Shadow Clones, and they knock out Bakugo, who was laying on the ground. He uses multi-Shadow Clone, by the way. So, Bakugo is just barely to get him off, and he's like, "Hey, Izuku!" Because he used one of his big things. Actually, no, I'm just gonna say he just did an explosion straight up, and it destroyed all of them. So, he's like, "Deku!" And then, Deku turns around, and he says, "You won't die if you won't dodge," and releases the big explosion. Almost, it destroys half the building, but Deku's just able to dodge, like in canon. Deku charges up some chakra and One for All in his legs and starts running in spirals on the walls and roofs. Bakugo tries to counter it, but he sends another Rasengan, this time hitting him in his, he jumps right behind him and hits him with a Rasengan, hitting him in the back. So, that lets Bakugo forward, and he releases it. And All Might says, "Bakugo, if you do that one more time, that your team will lose." So, after that, Bakugo's like, he won't die if he doesn't dodge. And then, Deku knows what's going to happen, so he tries to use this to his advantage. He uses chakras to start running on the ceiling, and then, he just stands there, looking like he pretends he's trying to track where Bakugo's going to send the explosion, and right as he sees Bakugo pulls the pin, he jumps off the roof onto the floor, tackling Bakugo. Well, not tackling Bakugo, but lands right next to Bakugo, and Bakugo explodes a giant hole right to the top floor. At this moment, Deku would tackle Bakugo, and he would use one more Rasengan, knocking Bakugo out. So, then Shako would float up to the floor, puking when she got up there, and Izuku would get up there before her, doing this. Shinso was quiet, so no one knew what his quirk was. But once Uraraka got up there and stopped puking, Shinso was like, "So, how's your family?" And she was like, "Good, but why do you want to know?" And then right after that, he was like, "Ha, gotcha." So, he controls Uraraka and makes and makes him make Deku float. Deku starts to float, and he's like, oh no, why did you do that, Uraraka? He sees Uraraka's eyes are white, and he's like, oh, it must be his quirk. So he like flicks, just like he did at the entrance exam. He flicks, but then he remembers it'll break his bone. So he uses a fireball jutsu this time to maneuver around the room, and he just uses it to get to the roof. And once he's on the roof, he uses his chakra control to stick to the roof. And, oh, sorry about the screen going dark. I will fix that in just a moment. Yeah, he sticks to the roof and uses a fire-style fireball jutsu, on Shinso, and that's enough to burn him and, knock him out due to the pain. This is when Uraraka, the quirk deactivates, and, she lets go as the thing of the quirk, just letting Deku down. He flips, and then Uraraka walks, and they touch the bomb. And then when it comes, Momo says, All Might says, the hero team wins! And Bakugo and Shinso are escorted out to the nurse's office. So, after that, Momo says, he was like, All Might's like, so does anyone know who the MVP of the match was? And Momo's like, yes, it was Midoriya, because Midoriya defeated both of them in a careful and with a strategy. And Uraraka, and he used his surroundings to the advantage and his abilities. When Uraraka made him float while being mind controlled or something by Shinso, he used one of his abilities to go to the roof and stuck onto it with another one of his abilities. And then he used that, and he used the same ability he used to get up there to knock out the other opponent, and thus knocking his teammate out of the other person's quirk, thus allowing them to win. And All Might's like, yes, yeah, you're correct. So that goes just as planned. And let me see how long this video is. 28 minutes, I'll go special. This will be like around a 35-minute video. So, then, they do their normal thing. And, after this, Deku's, Aizawa announces that they're going to be going to the USJ. I believe it stands for the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. Yeah. That is what it stands for. So fast forward a week, they get on the bus to go to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. So, once they get there, sorry about that. But once they get there, they go up all the stairs, and Kaminari says, "Oh, what? Why are there so much stairs just to go back down?" And after that, a purple portal opens up, and a whole bunch of villains start coming out. And this causes not Kaminari, Kirishima to say, "Oh wow, cool! They even have fake villains here." And so Aizawa yells, 13, protect the students. And yes, 13 is a she. So Kirogiri goes up to the students, and Bakugo, and everyone was like, What the hell are you doing? Why are you attacking this place? We're going to kill. Alright. Kitty Kitty's like, none of your business. So Deku, Kirishima, and Bakugo all go for an attack. Oh no, just Kirishima and Bakugo go for an attack. They get teleported. And Kitty Kitty teleports most of the students. This time, Tsuyuasui, not Minata Shinso, and, who was it? Oh yeah, and Deku. How could I forget that? So, they just get teleported in the middle of the ocean. Deku, swimming up to the top and using his chakra control to walk on the water. Tsuyuasui comes to save him, but then instead he's standing on the water. She's like, what the heck? But doesn't pay any mind to it. And Izuku charges a little bit of one for all into his legs to move faster, to go run to the boat. Tsuyuasui obviously gets there before Tsuyuasui and Shinso get there before him, because Tsuyuasui was saving Shinso. So they go and you see all the villains. And they devise a plan. Plan is Deku runs around to distract them, and using his strength enhance to punch whoever attacks him, just to distract them. While Tsuyuasui, and he holds 2 of the test dummies to make him look like he's holding them 2. So the villains will go to attack him, and he can just punch all the villains. While he's the distraction, while Tsuyuasui distracts one of the villains and gets him to go to them, and and Shinso uses his quirk to mind control one of the villains by asking him a stupid question, and they answer it. So, after that, what was it? Oh yeah. So they tell him, Izuku, after defeating one villain, goes and finds a place to hide, and he tells them, and he points all the way to the back and says, "They're all going there, guys. We need to go get him." And this is when Tsuyuasui would be up on the walls with Izuku, and they'd see them, and they'd all start trying to get out. So Izuku would jump down with a Chidori, and Chidori one of them. And Tsuyuasui would grab one with her tongue, pull them up, and knock them out. And Shinso would tell the one he mind controlled to start beating up all the other ones. So they defeat him. Tsuyu swims over to the edge with Shinso all the way to where the Nomu is beating up Aizawa. So okay. Izuku charges up one for all into his legs to make him go faster, and starts running towards them. So after they get there, sorry, I think I have corona. But after they get there, Deku can't watch Aizawa get beat up any longer. So he runs over to Aizawa and the Nomu and uses a uses a Chidori, Chidoriing the Nomu right through the stomach, leaving a gap in his stomach. It would just regenerate, and the Nomu would start targeting him. He would see the brain sticking out, and he'd go for it, but the Nomu would punch him before he could go for it. Shigaraki would see Tsuyuasui and try to distract Midoriya, Deku by running over to see Iwasui about to put 5 fingers on her. Deku uses One for All, Lightning Blade, One for All and Lightning Blade, and runs over just before Shigaraki can, because he noticed this at the last second. And right before he can touch her, he grabs her wrist. He grabs his wrist and flips Shigaraki onto the ground, and then throws him over to the Nomu. The Nomu sets him down, and then Shigaraki's like, no, 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 and starts scratching his neck hard, really, really hard. So, Izuku would see his brain, so he'd send a Phoenix Flame Jutsu on one side, and he'd use a Chidori to go for the other to get his brain, because he'd realized the brain is the weakness. Because he almost hit the brain last time, and the Nomu started yelling in agony. So, he runs up and Chidori's the Nomu right in the brain, killing the Nomu. And right at this moment, All Might comes in saying, "I am here!" But this time he does not have a smile on his face. So, he comes in right when Izuku kills the Nomu, sees it. Now that the Nomu is dead, Shigaraki's like, "Oh no, All Might's here and the Nomu is dead, we have no chance." So he's like, "Kitty Giddy, we have to get out of here." So Kitty Giddy opens up a portal, and this is when all the students start coming out. Shigaraki escapes. So, yeah, ending the USJ. So, guys, I'm afraid this is where I'm going to be leaving it off. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. And please leave a like and maybe even, a cheeky subscribe right there. But only if you enjoyed the video. You do not have to, but I would greatly appreciate it. So, without further ado, hope you guys all enjoyed, and see you next time tomorrow. Bye!